Hey guys, before we get started on our video today, you will remember a couple videos ago we did that improved racing kind of swag pack giveaway. The winner of that was Trips to Mexico 9770. If you could go ahead and send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or email me, all that information is down below, and I'll get this out to you. So, alright guys, back to the regular video. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are in the shop and we will be working on the Corvette yet again. You guys will see, this thing is all tore to hell. Well, you know, the coolant tank is out. We got spark plugs out, coil packs off, spark plugs are over there, driver's side spark plugs over there. So yeah, this place is kind of a mess. And the reason the shop is a mess is because of the previous video. As you guys saw, we cannot get the Corvette to start. And yes, guys, I did read the comments. I am fully aware of what's going on. And actually, it's kind of funny. More guys commented on that video than any of the previous ones before. So, actually, it's been a while. So, the common topic was there's no compression in that engine. So, if you guys can see, we did pick up a compression tester. I've tested 3 of the cylinders, and yeah, there's no compression at all in this thing. Now, I think what happened was, I think when I measured for the push rods, even though we were very thorough and we got basically a 7.6 total in length push rod, I think what happened was we were actually pushing the plunger down in the Johnson lifter. I told a couple of my buddies the method I followed. You know, they said that what you did is correct, but basically since I have the comp cam springs in there, I didn't use helper springs. They basically said that that could have put enough pressure onto the adjustable push rod that it could have pushed the plunger, depressed it within the, you know, lifter. So it's kind of weird that we were able to get a consistent you know, 7.6, actually it was 7.575, you add the 30 thousandths, 0.03 for the preload, and that got us to our 7.6. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that, you know, it was consistent throughout the whole motor. So I've been trying to diagnose this for like the last 2 or 3 days. I went and replaced the battery. I even reflashed the PCM because I still thought it was either electrical or the tune. I didn't think it was anything mechanical. But today what we're going to do is that we're actually going to discover if it is indeed mechanical. And how we're going to do that is with this. We used this before. This is from Depths Tech. And that is a remote camera. So if I can find the end of this thing right here, we'd stuck that camera in the old motor, and that's how we found the piston was exploded. So yeah, so we're gonna be doing that again today. What my plan is, I'm actually gonna try to get one of the cylinders with no tension on the springs, basically on its base circle. We're gonna stick that camera in there, and I would almost bet, I would almost put money on it, that we will see both valves open. I think the valves are being held open by push rods that are simply too long. So we're going to take a look at that today. And another problem that I found is that the head studs, I did not torque properly. Found a kit online. I thought it was the same ARP part number that I used. Actually, it's this instruction kit right here. You know, we torqued it 25, 50, 70. Well, I sent an email over to Tick Performance. That's the guys who manufacture, well, they don't really manufacture, they make the plate for the 1/2-inch head stud kit, and they actually want it 60, 90, 120. So we're just about half under what they want for the torque spec on the head. But still, you think there would still be some compression even with it being torqued down to 70 foot-pounds. Because that's about what the factory torque spec is for a stock motor. So, you know, so we've got a lot of stuff to tear apart. The only saving grace is on this, we don't have to take the supercharger off. I will have to remove the alternator. We may have to remove the power steering pump. I'm just not sure if I can get the valve cover off. Yeah, I think we should be able to. I was able to confirm, even if the push rods are too long, they are pushing oil, pumping up oil through the drivetrain, through the motor, through the push rod, and out the top of the rocker. So we are good there that there is oil circulating. I do know there is 22, 23 pounds of oil pressure on the motor. It's just, I think what's happening is the fact that the valves are hanging open when there shouldn't be. And yeah, now you guys will remember I did do a piston to valve clearance and we were fine. I did check the cylinders before we put the motor all the way together. So I'm not really worried about any bent valves or anything like that. I just think the push rods are a little bit too long, and we do have those valve cutouts in the piston relief valves, whatever you want to call that. We do have those cutouts in the piston, so I think we're good there. And you can see we're inside the cylinder, and there's no damage to the piston. Everything looks good. There is, looks to be like motor oil on there, which that's fine. But did want to show we do have a valve open. Now, the intake spring is opening. Well, if you guys look over here on the screen, you see that shiny bit on the far right corner? That is the exhaust valve hanging open. I don't think the exhaust valve should be open when the intake is open as well. I'm pretty sure this is why we don't have any compression. I would have to agree that the push rods are almost the wrong length. So yeah, that's that shiny exhaust valve that I was telling you about. I think we've got the operations out of whack. So I'm gonna spin this over a couple more times real slowly. I take the camera out when I spin it over, and I just kind of want to see the cranking events. All right, guys, I have confirmed that the cylinder, that my compression tester tool is not leaking. So let's try cranking it. You guys can see there's no compression on this cylinder. I've already tested the other cylinders. I just wanted to show you that this wasn't moving at all. So the next thing I'm going to do, because I kind of think that the push rods are too long, take the bolts for these two rockers, the intake and exhaust. Don't take them off, but loosen them up and just see if we build any compression that way. Alright guys, I have loosened both rockers. Let's see what it does. Still no compression. I have completely removed the bolts, and if you guys can see, I can't move these rockers at all. So yeah, I think we're way off on the push rod length. I can't believe how crazy that is. So I'm just gonna pull the whole rocker arm assembly off this side and see what's going on. You guys see that? It was trying to make like 50 psi, which, hey, it's a lot better than none. As I just tried turning the engine over a little bit more, and it shot up to 90 psi. And that's with no rockers in there. So I guess we know what the problem is. We know that the problem is the push rod. So here's what I'm gonna do. I have a very old school valve spring changer. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy a new one. I'm kind of contemplating buying all new springs for this thing, like a BTR double spring or comp cams. Whoever has a double spring, I'm kind of thinking about upgrading that, because what we have on here now is just an old set of comp cam beehives. They've been in there for like 8 years, but you know, this is an age versus mileage thing. They've probably only got 20,000 miles on them, maybe 15,000 miles. So not a lot of miles, but I don't know, something to consider. So I'm gonna order some tools, order some parts probably, and I think we might be swapping out the valve springs and starting all over with the push rods. So picking up from where we were earlier, you guys will see that we need to tear the car the rest of the way apart. So I need to get the exhaust off. So basically all I'm gonna do is take the bolts out for the exhaust manifold or the header, disconnect it from down below. I gotta take the alternator out. I may have to take the power steering pump off. I'm just not sure about that. But basically what I need to do is get access to the head bolts. So, well, actually the studs in this case, and you guys can see the exhaust is unfortunately right in the way. So we'll have to take all that stuff off. The dipstick, we'll have to take that out as well. Also with the alternator out, all these power lines will be out of the way, and that should be about it. And also, we're actually gonna be doing another upgrade while we're in here. So you guys know that I have to measure for new push rods and whatnot. Well, since you guys know we're gonna have to put test springs in here, that means taking apart the cylinder head and taking the valve springs off. So since we're gonna be in here taking those off anyway, we might as well not put the same springs that are already in here back in. Now these are a comp cam, I think it's a 918 Beehive spring. I put these in here like 7 or 8 years ago. Again, not too many miles ago, but just over time. So while we're in here, we're gonna be upgrading to a comp cam's dual valve spring setup with the titanium retainers. So before we have to get to that, I have to get these head studs all tightened up. So let's go ahead and take care of that first. All right guys, you can see we got the alternator off. We got the header off on the passenger side. I did go down below and disconnected it from the X pipe on both sides so I can take the driver's side off, you know, when we need to. So that all came out pretty easy. And basically what we're gonna do now is torque the middle studs, you know, starting with the whole LS torque pattern. It's already at 70 foot-pounds. So we're gonna go to 90, then 120, and we'll be done. So you guys will see that I actually have my big torque wrench, not my smaller Harbor Freight one. This is the one I usually only use for crank harmonic balancer bolts. But you guys can see I did do torque the whole, this side. I retorqued it to 90, then 120. And I used the GM recommended torque sequence. So we should be good there. Everything is torqued properly. Nothing snapped. I didn't hear any weird noises. Everything did tighten down. I didn't hear any stripping or anything like that. So we should be good. And wow. That is quite the exercise, as they say. So, yeah, we're done with torquing on this side. A couple more tools came in for this project, and you guys will see that we have a dual valve spring compressor. This will fit 2 springs, but when I mean dual valve spring, it will also fit dual valve springs, which we will be installing eventually. So we're gonna put this on the motor and then use these comp cams test springs. You guys can see these say checking springs. Part number for the comp cams is 4758-2. These are very lightweight springs that we will put in place of the old comp cams Beehive springs, and this should prevent any pressure being put onto the lifters and making sure there's no preloads. So we'll be doing this, but we'll also be doing one upgrade to this tool. This tool is on Amazon, and yeah, I saw some people recommend to replace the washer right here with actually a roller bearing. So I got this little roller bearing set. I think I got a pack of like 7 of them, and that roller bearing will just help prevent that stud from gulling up. And we are also going to put a little bit of anti-seize on that screw. That way we make sure everything stays straight, nothing, like I said, nothing galls up and it doesn't mess up. So a little bit of an upgrade to a tool that we got. I think this tool was 30 bucks. The washers were like 6 bucks, something like that. Basically $1 per roller bearing washer thing. And the comp springs, I think they are like 20 bucks. I'm not really sure, but I'll include part numbers for all this stuff down below. But all right guys, you can see we have the tool installed. We have the retainers out. And now all I gotta do is basically back off the spring compressor tool and we'll be able to get these comp cams, valve spring, and retainers out. We got the springs back in here. You obviously can tell that these are the test springs and not the Beehive springs like right here. So yeah, this tool works mint. Kind of like I said, I think that one upgrade, this little spinning bearing thing, whatever you want to call it, I think that really helped. So now we can take the tool out. All right guys, you can see we got the test springs in, and I could push the valve springs in by hand. When you tap this with a hammer, make sure you take the fitting off the air compressor line, because I hit one and it sounded like a huge explosion. But you know, just the valve opened up a little bit and sent a bunch of air down the exhaust, so it's just kind of funny. So yeah, so we can push these in quite clearly. And yeah, so we should be good. So our comp cam springs have come in. As you guys can see, we've got this dual valve spring kit, and the part number for this is 26926TI-kit. And what this comes with is going to be the dual valve spring, the titanium retainers, and the new clip. So you guys can see the new spring sits inside of the old one. Also, there's new guides we're gonna have to put in. Oh, well, there's the little retaining locks. Here's the new seals we're gonna have to put on and whatnot. So Yeah, so the spring seats, then here's gonna be your titanium. Yeah, the titanium retainers. So that is the kit that came from Cams. You guys will see that I've already done the one cylinder here. I think that's cylinder number 6. And yeah, so basically what we're gonna do is, for the rest of this, I already measured it out. The one cylinder was 15.5 turns and the other one was 15. So the intake is a little bit too long. I actually tried 15 turns on the exhaust and it was actually too short. The rocker arm did not tighten down at all. So I think for this particular cylinder, we're gonna need a shorter intake, because when I actually released the spring, you could see the spring pop back up, then the rocker would compress and actually kind of put a little bit more extra preload onto that lifter. So I think what had happened was when you add that 30.03 to the preload, that extra preload you already had takes it out of the spec for the Johnson lifter. So I think that's where our problem is. It's the intake, not the exhaust. Now, guys, I am going to measure every cylinder, I think. Now, if we happen to get 2 or 3 cylinders down the road and it ends up being the same results, because if you guys remember, when I did this measurement the first time, we ended up getting 15.5 for every cylinder. So if we get 15 and 15.5, all I'm gonna do is just take it, put the new springs on each cylinder and go from there, because measuring this stuff takes a really long time. I triple checked last night, turned the motor over. Oh, and I did find this little hack. If you pop the cover off your relay, so this is the relay for the starter, you guys press this little button on the side, you get the motor to pop. So that will cycle the motor over and get you to the point that you need it. So, because obviously with the LS9 setup and the ATI harmonic balancer we got down there, there's literally no room between the steering rack and that harmonic balancer pulley. So, you know, we can't turn it over by hand. So using that little relay trick, pop it and just spin the motor over until, you know, your exhaust push rod or your intake push rod is where it needs to be, and take your measurements. So, all right guys, many hours later, I have almost finished the driver's side. You guys will see that I have the dual valve springs installed except for this first cylinder. I've measured all of the springs and everything in here. So my measurements were pretty accurate last time, but what I'm seeing that the intake actually needs to be shorter than the exhaust. So the intake push rods are probably going to be one size down from 6.60. I think it's 6.585, something like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and order a set of those. Like I said, I'm going to order all 16. And the exhaust, they have to be a minimum of 15.5, so that roughly works out to be the 6.60. I'm not shocked that these Johnson lifters are giving us this much trouble. I've read about them being a pain, but like I said, so I've measured half the motor. We are going to measure the other side, but like I said, I'm going to already get the push rod order in and go from there. So, all right guys, the push rods finally came in. If you guys can see, these are from Tick Performance. They are 5.75 inches in length. So these are one size down compared to the old push rods that we had on the intake. And as you guys know, I measured 15 turns on the intake push rods and I measured 15.5 on the exhaust. So the 15.5 turns basically works out to be the 7.6, and the 15 turns basically works out to be the 7.575, and that's what we ordered. So I did order a whole set. We really only should need 8, but kind of like I said, I'm not sure, you know, how this is all going to work out. So I just wanted the complete set, and hopefully after installing these new push rods, we'll be able to get the car to fire up and get going. And yes, the ZR2 is in the shop today. No, we're not working on it. It's just the fact that I'm getting my driveway pressure washed and I know where else to put it. So ZR2 is inside. That is such a big vehicle compared to the SS next to it. And that's, the Silverado is pulled a little bit forward, but just look at the size comparison. That's such a tank. So as we got the push rods in, we got the rocker arms in, and I put the battery cable back on. And now we're going to show you what it's doing. So we're going to jump the starter relay. It's definitely making compression now, so I think this is a good sign that hopefully when I get everything else put back together, that we're ready to fire this thing up. Like, I could feel it. I think we're getting real close. So I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna put the valve covers on, spark plug wires, coil packs, all that stuff. Alright guys, as you just saw, the Corvette is running. Not very well, mind you, but it is fired up and running. So finally, after 6+ months, however long it's been, the car is running. Now on the inside, we do have over 45 PSI of oil pressure, so that's awesome. And so yeah, with this thing fired up, I can finally end this video. I think I've been working on this video for over a month. I think it's almost 30 minutes long. It's 20 something like that. So yeah, if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to follow along with the rest of the build on the Corvette, you know, the chassis dyno tune, reflashing it, you know, getting more tunes in it, get it updated, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to support the channel, check out the links down below. I'll try to provide links for everything that we've used on this really long video. And also make sure you check our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any support you guys can give there, go back right into the Corvette, the SS, the ZR2, and the shop. So thanks guys. Have a great one.